are voices in music that don't just sing, they testify. And in the rich, complex history of American soul music, few voices ever resonated as powerfully, as heartbreakingly, and as lastingly as Otis Redding's.
Song, all I know has a sweet melody.
His story is a meteoric rise, a sudden, devastating fall, and a legacy that only deepened with time. Otis Ray Redding Jr. was born on September 9, 1941, in Dawson, Georgia, a town nestled in the red clay of the American South. The Redding family was poor, working class, and deeply religious. His father, Otis Redding Sr., worked at Robins Air Force Base and also preached part-time. His mother, Fannie Mae Redding, took cleaning jobs to help make ends meet. In those early years, Otis learned the two forces that would shape his entire life: music and struggle. He grew up in Vineville, a black neighborhood of Macon, Georgia, where segregation was strict and opportunities limited. But there was also pride in the community, a sense of survival and identity born from faith, music, and resilience. Macon was no ordinary town. It was the hometown of Little Richard, and the very air seemed charged with rhythm and gospel. Redding soaked it all in. He sang in the choir at Vineville Baptist Church, won school talent shows, and by age 10, he was already obsessed with music. He idolized Sam Cooke, Little Richard, and later Ray Charles, men who fused spiritual intensity with secular soul. By his teens, Redding had dropped out of high school to help support his family. He worked odd jobs, cleaning gas stations, picking vegetables. But music was always the dream.
What did you do before you sang?
I used to be a well driller.
For water wells
Yeah,
type thing?
yeah.
Not oil.
He joined local bands, most notably Johnny Jenkins and the Pine Toppers, first as a driver and later as a featured performer. His powerful voice, filled with both grit and grace, quickly set him apart. In 1962, fate intervened. Otis accompanied Jenkins to a recording session at Stax Records in Memphis. At the end of the session, Otis shyly asked if he could sing something. The studio heads hesitated, then allowed him one take. What came out of the speakers was "These Arms of Mine," a slow-burning, vulnerable ballad unlike anything else on the charts. Stax released the track, and it became a regional hit. Otis Redding had arrived. From 1963 to 1967, Otis Redding became the crown jewel of Stax Records, a gritty, racially integrated label that specialized in raw, horn-heavy soul music. Unlike the slick polish of Motown, Stax was about feel, and nobody felt harder than Otis. He recorded hits like "Pain in My Heart," "That's How Strong My Love Is," and "I've Been Loving You Too Long." His band, Booker T and the MGs, provided the tightest backing in the business, and Otis was writing much of his own material, infusing it with Southern sensibility, vulnerability, and male longing. His influence spread fast. Aretha Franklin turned his "Respect" into a feminist anthem. The Rolling Stones cited him as an influence. Bob Dylan said Redding's version of "Just One More Day" brought him to tears. And live, Otis was electric, drenched in sweat, eyes shut tight, voice trembling with soul. He didn't just perform, he preached to the crowd with a style that was both spiritual and carnal. But he wasn't just a singer. Otis was a businessman. He started his own publishing company, managed his affairs carefully, and dreamed of opening a music ranch for young black artists to hone their craft away from the exploitative forces of the industry. In June 1967, Redding stepped onto the stage at the Monterey Pop Festival, a predominantly white, hippie-driven rock event in California. Many in the audience didn't know his name, but by the end of his set, which included "Shake," "I've Been Loving You Too Long," and a fiery cover of "Satisfaction," Otis had conquered them all. He left the stage to a standing ovation. Suddenly, he was not just a star in Black America. He was a national figure. The doors to mainstream stardom had opened. Inspired by the new audiences and the shifting sounds of the late 60s, Otis began experimenting musically. He started recording songs with more pop influence, more introspective lyrics, and smoother arrangements. Chief among them was a simple tune he wrote while resting on a rented houseboat in Sausalito, California. Sittin' on the dock of the bay. The track was haunting, contemplative, and unusually stripped down for Otis. It wasn't just another soul belter. It was a song about weariness, solitude, and the search for peace. It hinted at a new Otis, one evolving beyond Stax in Memphis. But he wouldn't live to see its release. On December 10, 1967, Otis Redding and members of the Bar-Kays boarded a Beechcraft H-18 plane bound for Madison, Wisconsin for a show. It was cold. The weather turned worse mid-flight. As they approached Truax Field, the aircraft crashed into the icy waters of Lake Monona. 7 of the 8 on board died, including Otis. He was just 26 years old. Ben Cawley, the lone survivor, later recalled waking up in freezing water, unable to save his friends. The world was stunned. One of the greatest voices in American music had been silenced in an instant. 3 days later, Stax executives, still reeling from grief, mixed and finalized Dock of the Bay. It was released posthumously in January 1968. The song went straight to #1 on the Billboard charts, making Otis Redding the first artist in history to achieve a posthumous #1 single in America. Otis Redding left behind a grieving family, his wife Zelma, and 4 young children, and a catalog of music that continues to inspire. His work shaped the direction of soul, R&B, and even rock. Artists from Marvin Gaye to Kanye West, from Bruce Springsteen to Alicia Keys, have cited him as a key influence. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1994. He won a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Streets, parks, and even a bridge in Georgia bear his name. In Macon, the Otis Redding Foundation now supports music education for the next generation. But more than honors, Otis's legacy is about feeling. His voice was never about perfection. It was about soul. He could scream like a wounded man or whisper like a lover. He gave vulnerability to masculinity, pain to pride, and hope to heartache. And that, perhaps, is why his music endures. In moments of grief, joy, or longing, Otis Redding's voice remains a companion. His songs remind us that life is fragile, beauty is fleeting, but soul, real soul, is eternal. Otis Redding was more than a singer. He was a movement, a bridge between gospel and secular, between black audiences and white ones, between the Southern past and a more hopeful American future. He never lived to see the full fruit of his dreams, but in 26 years, he did what few manage in 90. He changed the sound of music. He made the world stop and listen. And somewhere out on the dock of eternity, Otis Redding still sings.